Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Shiver. I'm Brian.
Brad.
And today we are going to be going into our Week 5 Thursday night matchup with your Indianapolis Colts going to Denver to take on dangerous Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. Let's dive right in.
All right, so you got the Broncos at home. You got a 3.5-point favorite. Under overs at 42. We'll start off with the fancy side of everything first, and I think it's a bad day for fantasy for Thursday night football. I don't know how many relevant people are going to be in this game.
Looks like it could wind up to be a defensive battle. I think you're going to see some scoring in this game, but I think one of the big headlines coming in is a lot of people are worried about Russell Wilson. So I think we're going to touch on him a little bit and just kind of see how you're feeling with him.
Yeah, so definitely the running game is going to kind of maybe affect that. Obviously, the injury to Devontae Williams, and you got the Colts on the other side without Jonathan Taylor. So that Denver backfield is going to be a hot mess this week. I think we're going to try to start with Melvin Gordon. If he can get going, if he fumbles again, he's gone. So I think Wilson might have to rely more on the pass. And he didn't do too bad last week, especially fantasy-wise. He did pretty good. So honestly, he's had 2 good games and 2 bad games. So I think he's getting more comfortable with the offense, and I think he's all right to start.
Yeah, I like Russell Wilson in this game. He's coming off a couple games where he played some good defenses and struggled. A lot of people started panicking. I mean, he was dropped in a lot of leagues, which was very surprising. I think he's now starting to find his footing a little more in that offense. You got to remember he did switch teams. We're dealing with all new targets. It's going to take a little time to get that chemistry going. So last week he had 4 rushes for 29 yards, which is the number you're looking for with Russell Wilson and fantasy relevance. You want him to run the ball. He was the leading rusher for the team last week, but he also threw for 237 yards and 2 touchdowns with no picks. Now, this week he's going to get a Colts defense that is middle of the pack against the pass. I'm not sure how they're going to fare on a short week. I like Russell Wilson in this game. I think you fire him up here. I think he's gonna have a pretty decent game. I have no problem starting him this week and having confidence in that.
Yeah, I think he's a good start along with his 2 receivers in Sutton and Judy. But other than that, on the Broncos side of the ball, I don't think there's much else to start for fantasy people.
Well, the backfield, like you said, is a little bit jumbled. You got Melvin Gordon is the guy going into this game. They're saying he has fumbled 4 times this year. He's a guy they already benched him once, kind of the second half kind of thing. So for Melvin Gordon, I think if he comes in and he has a fumble early, I don't think he's going to see the field most of the rest of that game. That also brings up Mike Boone. He's been a hot waiver wire pickup. I'm not huge on Mike Boone yet either. He only had 3 carries in that game last week. He was the first back in the game once Devontae Williams went down. So that is something to look at. And then they picked up Latavius Murray off of the Saints practice squad. And Latavius Murray looked good against the Vikings last week. So Latavius Murray for me is an interesting stash, I think. He's a guy, if he's out there, maybe pick him up. If Melvin Gordon fumbles and Boone just doesn't get it done, I think Latavius Murray takes that backfield over.
Yeah, Murray could definitely take that backfield over, and it could happen quick. It's basically just 1 fumble away from Gordon. So I think Murray's a great stash for your lineup. Obviously, wait and see how it pans out, and that could be one of your late waiver wire guys that's going to make a difference in your team down the stretch.
For this game, though, we're going to say stay away from these guys. I don't trust that backfield right now, especially with a 3-headed monster coming in. They say Melvin Gordon's the guy, but coaches say these things. We don't know who the guy really is. We don't even know if they're going to play Melvin Gordon a lot moving forward with his fumbling issues. So stay away from them. We'll talk pass catchers on their side, though, with Sutton and Judy. Those guys are pretty much neck to neck in their stats from last week. Both of them had 52 and 53 yards respectively on 5 and 4 catches respectively. Each scored a touchdown. This game here, do you see those guys scoring again? Do you think they're fantasy relevant?
I think they're both fantasy relevant. I think I like Sutton a little bit more than Judy, but they're both quality starters. I mean, they're both need to be in your lineup. Sutton's got, I think he's more of a possession receiver. I think Judy's got the big playability. And then Sutton's also got the jump ball ability. So they're both very capable of scoring, very capable of putting up big numbers. And yeah, they're both in your lineup.
Yeah, Sutton's definitely that guy that he's a possession guy. You can go to him on reliable downs. He's a big guy, so he's going to get a lot of targets in the red zone. I do like Cortland Sutton in this game. I also like Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Judy's a guy, he's a big play guy. I feel like he's more of a down the field threat. So both of them, I'd say fire them up. Outside of those two, though, I don't see a whole lot of guys we should even mention. I mean, Alberto is non-existent in this offense. I don't think there's anybody else.
Yeah, I think that's about it on the other side of the ball. Unless you got that McManus kicker, he can boot some points for you than 50-yard field goals if you get bonus points with that in your league.
I also do like the Denver defense in this game. I think they're going to have a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's not mobile. We know he's getting a little up there in age. I do like their defense in this game. Not as much as I usually like them, but I think they're going to have a solid performance.
I mean, Denver's only giving up 17 points a game. It's pretty low. They're only giving up 192 passing yards per game. That's pretty low. So yeah, they've got a pretty strong defense. The Colts, their offense is not very good. I think they're very hard to predict, though. They're unpredictable. So
well, they're getting a Colts team that's coming in a little bit with a mixed bag on offense. So Matt Ryan, if you look at his stat line from last week, it really wasn't that bad. He threw for over 350 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. They only scored 17 points, and that's against the not very good Titans defense. Then they go up against the Chiefs and just absolutely look dominant. They play the Jaguars and
get shut out.
I don't trust Matt Ryan enough to say start him. I don't even know if he's rostered in a lot of leagues, to be honest with you. And I don't think he should be. I think Matt Ryan is he's a little inconsistent. He's not spreading, he's spreading the ball around, but he's not, I think he's better when he force feeds Pittman. I just think that team is better. Jonathan Taylor's going to be out for this game, so I think they're going to rely a little more on that passing game, but I just don't think Matt Ryan's an option.
So like fantasy guys in this game, I mean, you got Pittman. He's a must start. He had a bad game last week, but he's definitely a must start. I think Hines has a big game this week. I don't think you see much of production rushing, but I can see somewhere of a stat line with like 8 or 9 catches, 70 yards, a touchdown. But I think it's through the air for sure. But that's what we want in fantasy football. PPR, that's what we want.
And I think you're going to see a lot of Nyheim Hines in this game. I do think you're going to see a dose of Phillip Lindsay in this game as well. I just don't know what extent that's going to be. Hines is probably going to get a little more involved in the carries. He's going to be on the field a little more, so the passing game might go. His production may go up there too. With 5 catches last game, it's kind of his sweet spot, 4 to 5 catches. I like a good game out of Hines. I'm going to say he's going to probably get about 6 catches in this game. Hopefully he converts one to a touchdown. If he does that, he's absolutely in your lineups. I've got him starting with my RB2 this week, and that's on a stacked team. So I like him this week. I say fire him up.
Yeah, he's definitely a good plug-in.
Now, speaking of plugins, I want to mention a receiver that we're not going to talk too much about, but is worth noting, and that's Alec Pierce. Now, the last 2 weeks, Alec Pierce has had 11 targets between those 2 games. That's 5.5 targets a game. He's averaging between 9 and 12 points in those 2 games, but he's getting better each game. It looks like Matt Ryan's starting to trust him as that number 2 receiver. Paris Campbell may be their number 2, but he's really just out there running routes. I don't even think he's relevant.
Yeah, Matt Ryan just spread the ball out so much last week, and it's hard to tell who's going to vulture into that number 2 spot. Like Granson had 4 targets, Pierce had 4 targets, Campbell had 4 targets. Like it was just all spread out. So something to keep your eye on to see who's going to take over that number 2 spot in Indianapolis. But Pierce is probably the guy to do it, and like he's a rookie. It's only been 4 games into the season, so.
We know rookies get better as you go.
He gets stronger as he goes on, and maybe by week 8, maybe he's the man there. So
I like Pierce in the flex play this week, to be honest with you. I think in deeper leagues, you can definitely go to him as an option. I think 10-man format, I don't think Alec Pierce is there yet. Was he worth the pickup off the waiver wire? We didn't do a waiver wire video this week, but I'm going to say he is. I think I like Alec Pierce off the waiver wire. We've already had 2 guys, actually, that we've talked about with Latavius Murray and now Alec Pierce. I think those are 2 guys you can go get and stash on your bench. Just to kind of see how they play out. I think that I think that, especially with Murray, you want to see what that usage is going to be. But I think Pierce becomes later in the season a guy that could get you deep into the playoffs and start performing well. So I like it.
Right. So I guess the tight end position in Indianapolis is also very unpredictable. Because you saw Jelani Woods a couple weeks ago, 2 touchdowns. Only had a couple of catches, but had the 2 touchdowns. And last week, Mo Cox blows up, 2 touchdowns, 85 yards, 6 catches. So it's hard to tell who's gonna be the tight end there. They have 2 very good ones, and they're kind of going back and forth. So I don't know if I can rely on starting either one of them, but they are definitely both boom or bust. I think Ali Cox has a better upside. He's obviously been in that offense a lot longer, but if anybody could be stashed, it's probably Cox. But I don't feel comfortable starting him just because of his boom and bust ability.
And I think that's something we're starting to see with this offense, is that Matt Ryan is leaning on his tight ends. The problem is we just don't know which one he's going to lean on. I don't like either of these guys. Mo Alley Cox, before his explosion, was 6 for 85 and 2 touchdowns. Had only accumulated about 7 fantasy points for the year. So I'm just going to say no on Mo Alley Cox until he proves consistently that he's going to be a guy that Matt Ryan's going to lean on. Jelani Woods is definitely a guy in that offense that's going to be active. So as long as those 2 guys are splitting that tight end spot, you're playing the guessing game. I don't do well with the lottery, and I'm not trying to play with these guys. So I'm not running either of those 2 out.
All right, so that's it for the fantasy stat of it. So I guess we'll go to the game. So
Let's pick the game.
I'm a Colts fan. I'm also kind of a Broncos fan because I follow Peyton Manning. But this is a tough one to do because just like I said, the Colts are so unpredictable. I'm going to go with Denver at home. I think Denver's a pretty tough place to play in on the road. So I'm going to go Denver. I do think it's a very low-scoring game. You got over at 42. And I think both offenses are not quite running on all cylinders yet. So I'm going to go under 42, and I'm going to go the Broncos minus a 3.5.
I'm going to go a little bit different than that. So for me, this game, Jonathan Taylor being out, I feel like could be something that ends up being a blessing for the Colts, because now they're not going to force feed Jonathan Taylor the ball. He has not gotten going this year. I think this is actually a game where their offense becomes decent. I don't think they score a lot of points, but I think they do enough to win this game. I actually think the Colts win this game outright. I'm going to go 21-20 Colts. So I'm going to take the under, but I am going to take the Colts in this game.
All right. Well, I hope you're right.
I hope so too. That's going to do it for our Thursday night forecast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Like, subscribe. We appreciate the views. We appreciate the support. If you found any value in this, you can find us on Facebook at the Shiver Fantasy Football Insight. We've pretty much nailed every Monday night game that we've put out. We've not missed a spread on that one yet, so definitely check those out for the Monday night games. And we're also doing videos where we're talking about pretty much every game. So check it out.
All right.
Until then,
like,
Brian.
subscribe. He's Brian. I'm Brad. We'll see you next time.
Fuck the Commanders.
Go Colts.